I speak 3 languages. I learned English as a teenager completely alone, and in 2018 I started learning German and I passed my C1 exam in 2019. So in this video I'm going to share with you some of my tips how to learn a new language faster. The goal is not to speak it perfectly, but to be able to communicate, and that's the first step. Of course you can aim for perfection, but some people just want to be able to communicate, to get to this point as soon as possible, and I'm going to share tips for that. Tip number 1. Use your dictionary as little as possible. I know it sounds odd, but it's actually one of the most important things when you're trying to learn a new language and embrace its culture. Often you hear a word that you don't know, for example, the Apfel, and it takes you literally just 2 seconds to look it up, and then you say, oh, it's an apple. And then you forget this word in a few minutes because in your brain, one word equals another. It's a simple connection that breaks super easily. Word equals object, not another word. When a word linked to an object, you will never forget it because it's something you touched, you smelled, you tasted, or you imagined, but there is a connection that is super strong, and even if you forget the word, you'll be able to describe it. Also, this method is pretty effective because there are some words in some languages that don't exist in other languages. So there's plenty of words that I learned in German and I just know they don't exist in Russian. So there is no direct translation. You can't have one word equals another word. So you have only an understanding and you can explain what a word means. So learn new words without using a dictionary, and this works pretty well if you're attending a language course or if you live in a country where this language is spoken. But if you're just at home, you can just take stickers and put it on objects, and that's going to help you a lot too. Tip number 2, use words in a sentence. I think it's one of the most inefficient ways to learn a new vocabulary by having a list of words in one column and then a translation in another one. This never worked for me. I would forget the words in a few minutes, then I'll go back to the list and then be like, oh yeah, sure, I remember now. And then I'll forget it in a few minutes again. I truly believe it's not enough just to know what a word means, but also you have to understand how you can use it. You don't truly understand what it means unless you can actually put it in a sentence. Take the word swimming. I immediately put it in a sentence. I can't swim. I can also expand it a little bit and say, but my father can. Or even more, no one ever taught me how to swim. Now you have a full understanding of this word. You can also put it in a sentence, and you have a lot of connections to this word. So there is less chances you'll actually forget it. So remember, you don't truly understand a word unless you can put it in a sentence. Tip number 3, talk to yourself. And bear with me, I'm not crazy, okay? Okay, I told you I'm not crazy. To practice the language and avoid forgetting it, you have to speak it. We're so perfect at speaking our native languages because we have been speaking them our entire lives. But you might have noticed if you learn something entirely new, something like in physics or chemistry, and you're trying to explain it to someone for the first time, you might struggle. The right words don't come easily, you pause longer and you beat around the bush. One thing I've noticed on my journey is that it's way easier to talk about things that you've discussed 1,000,000,000 times already. And maybe you don't have enough friends to practice your language skills. Introverts. That's me. Maybe you don't have enough friends to practice your language skills, but you always have yourself. I talk to myself all the time, conducting interviews in my head, answering all possible questions. I'm not crazy. I told you, right? I'm not crazy. No, really, I talk to myself all the time, and I imagine people coming to me on the street and like, if they ask this question, what would I answer? And in this kind of situations, even when I'm talking to myself, sometimes I'm struggling because then I actually start thinking, how would I say that in English or German? And it's actually a good sign because in this kind of situations, you find out what your blind spots are, and it doesn't happen in a real conversation with someone else, but it happens when you talk to yourself, and that's really practical. So yeah, I hope you like these tips. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like this video, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. До свидульки.